Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome to Funny Fun Audiobook Gala. You know what? You just clicked on something different. This isn't your typical 10 tips to fix your life kind of video, nope. This isn't me standing in front of a whiteboard with a marker telling you what to do. This is Margaret. She's 78 years old. And she's got something to say. Now, I know what you're thinking. An elderly woman talking for an hour. Really? That's the content. Yes, really. Because sometimes the most powerful stories aren't the loud ones. They're not the flashy ones with the big music and the dramatic reveals. Sometimes they're the quiet ones, the ones that feel like someone's sitting across from you at a kitchen table, holding a cup of tea, finally saying the thing they've been holding inside for 50 years. Margaret recorded this herself, on her phone late at night. She wasn't trying to go viral. She wasn't trying to build a brand or sell you a course. She just needed to say it. When we heard it, we knew we had to share it with you. Because this story, it's not just hers. It's a lot of ours. It's about the little ways we disappear. The quiet ways we make ourselves smaller. The things we don't say because we think we're being kind. But really, we're just being afraid. So here's what's about to happen. Voice. You're going to hear Margaret's voice. Her actual voice. No music, no edits, just her. And yeah, it's long, it's raw, it's real. But if you let it, if you really listen, it might just change something in you. So grab your headphones, make some tea, get comfortable. This is Funny Fun Audiobook Gala, bringing you stories that matter. And this is Margaret's story. Let's listen. My name is Margaret Rose Kellerman. I'm 78 years old. I'm recording this on my phone because I don't know how much time I have left. And there's something I need to say while I still can. I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm not even sure you'll want to hear this. But I've been carrying it around for so long now that it feels like the only honest thing left to do is just say it out loud, while I still have the words. I know exactly when it changed, too. It was a Thursday afternoon in May, 1973. I was 26 years old. I was standing in the kitchen of our apartment on Maple Street, holding a dish towel, watching my husband Paul put on his coat to go back to work after lunch. He kissed me on the forehead. He always did that. And he said, "See you tonight, Maggie." And I said, hum, without looking up from the counter. I didn't look at him. I can still see the dish towel. It was yellow with white daisies on it. I remember that more clearly than I remember his face in that moment. That's the thing I need to tell you about. Not that moment, exactly. But what I didn't know was happening. What I couldn't see until it was 30 years too late. Screw. I grew up in a house where no one said much of anything that mattered. My father worked at the plant. My mother kept the house. We ate dinner at 6. We went to church on Sundays. Everything was fine. That's what we said. Everything's fine. And I believed that. I thought that's what life was. You do the things you're supposed to do. You keep everything running. You don't complain. You don't ask for too much. You're grateful for what you have, too. I married Paul when I was 22. He was kind. He worked hard. He didn't drink, didn't raise his voice, didn't do any of the things my mother had warned me to watch out for. He was steady, reliable. I thought that was enough. No, I thought that was everything. We had 2 kids. Michael in 1968, Sarah in 70. I stayed home with them. Paul worked at the insurance company downtown. We had a small house by then. A yard, a car that ran most of the time. Everything was fine. It really was. There was nothing wrong. Nothing I could point to and say, "This is broken." Nothing anyone else would have looked at and said, "You should leave," or "You should change something." But I was disappearing. I didn't know it then. I couldn't have told you that. If you'd asked me, I would have said I was happy. I would have believed it. I was learning, day by day, moment by moment, to make myself smaller. Paul died 6 years ago. Heart attack. He was working in the garden. He just went down. And I sat at his funeral, and people said all the nice things people say. What a good man he was. What a good marriage we had. How lucky I was to have had him for so long. And I nodded and said thank you. But inside, I was thinking, I don't know if I ever really knew him. I don't know if he ever really knew me. I'm not telling you this because I think you'll feel sorry for me. I'm telling you this because I spent 50 years of my life believing that disappearing was the same thing as loving someone. I thought that's what it meant to be good. To be selfless. To not be a burden. For, if I just made myself small enough, quiet enough, easy enough, then everything would be okay. And it was okay. But I wasn't, and I didn't even know it. Script Part 2. After Paul died, I thought maybe I'd figure it out. Finally, I thought maybe now, without anyone else to take care of, I'd find, I don't know, myself, I guess. That's what people say, isn't it? Find yourself, but I didn't know where to look. I was 72 years old and I didn't know what I liked to eat for breakfast if no one else was there to cook for. I didn't know what I wanted to do on a Saturday. I didn't know if I liked gardening or if I'd just done it because Paul liked the yard to look nice. I'd go to the grocery store and stand in the aisle and realize I didn't know what to buy. Not because I couldn't afford it. Not because I didn't know how to cook. But because I didn't know what I wanted to eat. I'd spent so long feeding other people that I'd forgotten I was hungry too. Sarah came to visit a few months after the funeral. She was worried about me. I could tell. Kept asking if I was okay, if I needed anything, if I wanted to come stay with her and the kids for a while. And I kept saying I was fine, because I didn't know how to tell her the truth. One night we were sitting in the living room and she said, "Mom, what do you want to do now? You have time now. You can do anything." And I just looked at her. I didn't have an answer. She thought I was being humble. Or maybe she thought I was still grieving and couldn't think about the future yet. But that wasn't it. I just didn't know. I'd spent my whole life being what other people needed me to be. And now that no one needed me to be anything, I didn't know what was left. I started thinking about that Thursday in May again. The one I told you about at the beginning. The day Paul kissed me on the forehead and I didn't look up. I've thought about it 1,000 times since he died. More, and I finally understood what happened. It wasn't that one moment. It wasn't that I didn't look at him that one time. It was that I'd already decided, somewhere deep down, that what I was doing in that moment mattered more than seeing him. Not because the dishes were so important. Not because I was so busy. But because I'd already learned that my presence didn't matter as much as my productivity. I'd already learned that being useful was more important than being seen. And once you learn that, you can't unlearn it. You just keep proving it to yourself, over and over, every single day. I started going to a grief group at the church. Not because I thought it would help. Just because I didn't want to sit in the house by myself anymore. There was a woman there, Frances. She'd lost her husband the year before. She was around my age, maybe a little older. One week, someone asked her how she was doing, and she said, "I'm angry." Everyone got quiet. She said, "I'm angry because I wasted 40 years trying not to bother him. And now he's gone, and I can't get those years back." I remember my chest got tight when she said that. Because I knew exactly what she meant. And I also knew I didn't have the right to be angry, Dios, because no one made me disappear. Paul never told me to be quiet. He never told me my thoughts didn't matter. He never said I wasn't allowed to want things. I did that to myself. I thought I was being loving. I thought I was being good. But really, I was just afraid. I was afraid of being too much, too loud, too needy, too difficult, too selfish. I was afraid that if I asked for what I wanted, I'd be told no. Or worse, I'd be told I was being unreasonable. So I didn't ask. I just made myself smaller and smaller and smaller until there was almost nothing left. And the thing is, no one stopped me. Paul didn't say, "Maggie, what do you want?" He didn't say, "Tell me what you're thinking." He didn't say, "I miss hearing your voice, V," because he didn't know I was disappearing, because I hid it so well. I smiled. I nodded. I said, "I'm fine." I said, "Whatever you want." I said, "It doesn't matter." And after a while, I think we both believed it. I wish I could tell you there was one moment when I realized what I'd done. One big clear moment when I woke up and saw it all. But it wasn't like that. It was more like a slow thought. Like I'd been frozen for 50 years, and I was finally starting to feel my fingers and toes again. And it hurt. God, it hurt. Because I couldn't go back. I couldn't undo it. I couldn't call Paul and say I'm sorry I hid from you. I hid from myself. I didn't know how to do it any other way. He was gone, and all I had left was the truth. I think about my kids sometimes. Michael and Sarah. I wonder what I taught them. Not the things I said, the things I did. I taught them that mothers don't have needs. That women are supposed to disappear. That love means erasing yourself. Sarah calls me every week. She's kind. She's patient. She asks me how I'm doing, but I can hear it in her voice sometimes. The same thing I used to do. She'll start to tell me about something that's bothering her, and then she'll stop herself and say, "But it's not a big deal. I'm fine." And I want to reach through the phone and shake her and say, "No, stop. Don't do what I did. Don't make yourself small. Don't hide. Don't wait until it's too late." But I don't say that, 'cause I don't know if she'd understand. I don't know if I have the right to tell her what to do when I spent my whole life doing the opposite. Michael doesn't call as much, maybe once a month. He's busy. He has his own life. He's kind when we talk. He asks about my health. He tells me about work, about the kids. But I don't think he really knows me, and that's not his fault. I never let him know me. I was always just mum, the one who made dinner and did laundry and said everything was fine. I don't think he ever saw me as a person who had doubts or fears or dreams or regrets. And now it's too late to show him, because I don't know how. I go to the cemetery sometimes. To visit Paul, I sit on the bench near his grave and I talk to him. I tell him the things I never said when he was alive. I tell him I was scared. I tell him I didn't know how to be both a person and a wife at the same time. I tell him I thought I had to choose. I tell him I'm sorry. I don't know if he can hear me. I don't know if it matters. But I say it anyway. Because it's the only thing I have left. I've been thinking a lot about time lately. Not because I'm afraid of dying, I'm not. Not really. Because I'm afraid I've already been gone for a long time. I'm afraid I spent my whole life as a ghost. Present but not really there. Visible but not really seen. I did all the things I was supposed to do. I checked all the boxes. I made everyone comfortable. But I never let anyone see me. And I never let myself be seen. Now, at 78, I'm trying to figure out who I am when no one's looking. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Start with little things. Paul liked the house quiet when he got home from work. So I learned to have the kids settled before 5:30. I learned to keep my voice low. I learned not to bother him with the small problems of the day. He didn't ask me to do that. He never said, "Don't talk to me." But I could feel it. The way his jaw tightened if I started telling him about something that went wrong. The way he'd nod and say hum. The same way I said it to him that Thursday in May. So I stopped. I stopped telling him when I was tired. I stopped mentioning when the kids were hard. I stopped talking about the things I used to think about before we got married. Books I wanted to read, places I wanted to see. It felt like being considerate. It felt like being a good wife. I told myself I was making space for him. He worked hard. He was under pressure. He needed to come home to peace. He came home to peace, but I was the one who disappeared to make the space. I remember one night, maybe a year after Sarah was born, I was sitting on the couch folding laundry, and Paul was reading the paper. Michael was already in bed. Sarah was asleep in her crib, and I had this thought. Just this quiet thought. I don't know what I think about anything anymore. It wasn't sad. It wasn't angry. It was just true. I couldn't remember the last time someone had asked me what I thought, and I couldn't remember the last time I had even asked myself. I folded the laundry. I went to bed. I didn't think about it again for a long time. The years went by, the way years do. The kids got bigger. Paul got a promotion. We moved to a bigger house. I joined the PTA. I volunteered at the church. I made casseroles and hemmed pants and drove carpool and kept everything running. Everyone said I was doing a great job, and I was. I really was. But somewhere in there, I stopped being a person who wanted things. I stopped having preferences that mattered. If Paul wanted to go to his brother's house for Thanksgiving, we went. If he wanted to watch the game, we watched the game. If he wanted to save money instead of take a vacation, we saved money. It wasn't that he forced me. It wasn't that he was cruel or controlling or any of the things you'd think of. It was quieter than that, fear. It was just that his wants were always a little louder than mine, a little more solid, a little more real. and mine started to feel like they didn't matter as much. Like they were optional. Like I was being selfish if I pushed for them. So I didn't. I had a friend, back then Linda. We met at the park when our kids were little. She was different from me. Louder. She laughed bigger. She got angry about things. I remember one afternoon we were having coffee in her kitchen, and she was telling me about a fight she'd had with her husband. Something about him planning a fishing trip without asking her first. She said, I told him, you don't just get to decide things for both of us. I'm a person too. And I remember thinking, that sounds exhausting. I didn't say that. I just nodded and said something about how men don't always think things through. But inside I thought, why make such a big deal out of it? Too. I thought she was being dramatic. I thought she was making trouble where there didn't need to be trouble. Now I know what I was really thinking. I was thinking, I can't afford to be a person too. It's too much work. It's too risky. It's easier to just not. The thing is, it didn't feel like giving up. It felt like peace. It felt like maturity. It felt like I was finally learning how to be content. How to stop wanting so much. How to be grateful. I thought I was becoming a better person, but I wasn't. I was becoming a smaller one. And the worst part is, no one noticed. Not even me. Paul didn't notice because I never told him. I never said, I'm disappearing. I never said, I don't know who I am anymore. I just kept smiling and cooking dinner and asking him how his day was. And he thought everything was fine, because it was. For him, everything was fine. Michael left for college in 1986. Sarah left 2 years later. And then it was just me and Paul in that house. I thought I'd feel relieved. I thought I'd finally have time to do the things I'd put off. Read those books, take those classes, figure out what I wanted. But I didn't know what I wanted. I'd spent so many years not asking that question that I didn't know how to answer it anymore. Paul retired in '94, and then he was home all the time. And I realized something I hadn't let myself see before. We had nothing to talk about. We'd sit at the table and eat breakfast, and he'd read the paper, and I'd look out the window, and neither of us would say anything. Not because we were angry, not because we were fighting, but because we didn't know each other. We'd lived in the same house for 30 years, and we didn't know each other. And it was my fault as much as his. Because I'd never let him know me. I'd spent 30 years not telling him what I thought, what I felt, what I wanted, what scared me, what made me angry, what made me sad. I'd spent 30 years making myself easy to live with. And now we were strangers. We sat with this recording for a long time before we decided to share it. Because it's heavy, it's real. It's the kind of story that sits with you long after it's over. And if you made it all the way here, if you stayed with Margaret through all of this, thank you. Seriously, thank you. Because in a world of 15-second clips and quick dopamine hits, you chose to listen to a 70-year-old woman tell you the truth about her life. That says something about you. We want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us, did this story hit home for you? Is there a moment in your life where you looked up or wish you had? Is there someone you need to see? Really see? Reread every single comment. And honestly, sometimes your words mean more than the video itself. And hey, if this story moved you, do us a favor. Hit that like button, not for the algorithm, but because it helps other people find Margaret's story. People who might really need to hear it. Subscribe to Funny Fun Audiobook Gala if you want more stories like this. Real voices, real lives, no fluff, just truth. And share this. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your mum, your sister, your friend who's always saying I'm fine. Maybe they'll hear something in Margaret's voice that helps them look up. We'll be back soon with another story. Another voice. Another life lived and shared. Until then, look up, take up space. Let yourself be seen. This is Funny Fun Audiobook Gala. Thank you for being here.